We think he's going to come back
because of the injury on his finger.
It's on his elbow.
Oh, his elbow. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Ligaments and all this other stuff. And they said they got in there and it looked like a car wreck.
That's why y'all did. That's why your boys should have kept their mouth shut.
Who?
Trey and Kyle, or Lynch and Kyle.
I don't think it's over though. What if they said that and they put Trey in there? What's Trey gonna do? Play like willingly play bad? Oh, you gonna go out there and try and ball?
No. The whole point was they never should have said anything. And to me, they said something for a reason. And I think it has to do more with Trey than it does Brock Purdy. That's my concern. That's why I lean towards he could probably outplay him in training camp and still not be the starting quarterback, because I think they look at Trey Lance a certain way right now.
I see, and this is where
James Ham, our 1320 Kings insider and 49er fan, is here.
James Ham. This is where I look at it differently. And I think Kyle and John are more here than where you're saying. I think they're just taken back by Brock Purdy. You know how much I love Trey Lance. I think he's good. I think he's talented. I saw Brock Purdy, and it's not I don't like what I see from Trey. It's this dude has what I'm looking for. This dude, he's got the timing, the feel, the understanding, the comfort level. He has everything that I'm looking for in a quarterback right now. And it has nothing to do with Trey Lance being bad. It has everything to do with Brock Purdy having that it.
Every time I look at Brock Purdy, I see Drew Brees. Every time. And that's the thing. Like, it's composure, it's accuracy. He knows how to run it. And, you know, the Niners, their defense is so good, their running game is so good that they could use a game manager back there. And I think Brock Purdy gives you that and then a bunch more. You know, the ability to make the right throw, to hit the right player, to process opposing defenses quickly. Those are things that he brings to the table. And he might not be the biggest, he might not be the strongest or the fastest, but what he does have is this very, very specific skill set that should work as you're trying to win Super Bowls. And he's not going to be the reason you won one, but he also won't be the reason you lost one. That's what it looks like to me.
When's your fantasy draft, James?
We almost always do it on Labor Day weekend.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, we do it the Sunday or Monday right before the season starts, because we don't like to have somebody draft a team and then 2 weeks later, like, his quarterback blows out his elbow in preseason. So, you know, every once in a while you get burned by that. But I know 1 year I had a running back who we drafted relatively high. I think it was Gus Edwards, and he like blew out his knee in practice next day. So those are what you're trying to avoid.
Pretty soon, running backs aren't even going to be drafted in fantasy football.
Oh,
that's how they're doing. They're just that's how bad they're doing that whole position. Just no running backs at all associated with our league. You're listening to D'Lo and KC on KIFM West Sacramento 98.5 FM, KRXQ HD2 Sacramento, ESPN 1320. Always live on the free Odyssey app as we welcome in our good buddy. Official introduction here for our 1320 Kings insider and creator of the Kings Beat, James Ham. Hammer, there was a fun discussion over the weekend about prime DeMarcus Cousins versus Nikola Jokic. Now, we've tried to outline that. We've tried to be fair to this. We really looked at ages 24, 25, 26, 27. The numbers are stunningly close, but Jokic has an edge in a couple of different categories. But how well do you think those two match up against each other? Or how well do you think those two compare to each other, I should say?
I think the biggest issue is that Jokic is a winner. He, just came home with a ring, and he taken his team deep into the playoffs one other time. DeMarcus never really got that opportunity here in Sacramento, but like watching DeMarcus on a nightly basis, just such an incredibly gifted player. But Jokic is different. He's one of the greatest statistical anomalies that we've ever seen in professional sports, certainly in the NBA. What he does on the court is just wild to me. And I don't think he gets nearly as much props as he deserves, even though he is a 2-time MVP. He probably should have been a 3-time MVP, and he's just that good. And so while I loved watching DeMarcus Cousins play, I didn't love all the antics and some of the craziness. But like watching him on a nightly basis, I have the utmost respect for his game. That being said, one of them is, like a 2-time MVP and a finals, superstar. And the other one, his career flamed out pretty quickly, unfortunately.
Well, and you can only go by what actually happened. So, this is all a lot of hypotheticals and stuff like that. But I mean, is Jokic good enough where if he's put in the same situation as DeMarcus Cousins, he brings that whole franchise to the finals or multiple playoff appearances? I mean, that franchise.
I mean, I think
James, the franchise is a mess. It was a disaster.
I kind of feel like though Denver really wasn't anything that was going the right direction either, and we can almost compare like apples to apples here because you put Michael Malone in that situation and he was able to build something, and you wonder if it's possible if he would have been able to build something here in Sacramento. There's a lot of speculation. A lot of people think that was a foregone conclusion that Michael Malone would have like been spectacular here in Sacramento. But even Michael will tell you that, a lot of that is greatly overblown. Like he hadn't done anything. He hadn't won. So yeah, I mean, maybe if you put him in the right situation, but like I know DeMarcus pretty well. And like people say, I don't like DeMarcus like in the chat and stuff. That's just not the case. Like I've known DeMarcus for a long time. And every time I see him, I get a big hug from the guy and like we talk. But at the same time, like if you're going to be the face of a franchise and you're going to be the leader and everything else of a franchise, I'm taking Jokic. There isn't the baggage. There isn't the negativity. There isn't the other stuff that came with DeMarcus that for as much as it was the Kings' fault that they didn't succeed, it was also partially his fault as well. And so, I mean, it's just reality.
Well, at least the Nuggets they alone had the good sense not to fire Mike Malone.
Well, they did that.
Like you're right. They weren't. There wasn't a lot going on in Denver when Mike Malone got there, but at least they knew not to fire him.
They came close. They came close once or twice.
After playoffs, though.
Yeah. And I mean, like, look, Michael Malone he's a great coach. He is. He's a fiery guy. He pushes buttons. He had DeMarcus Cousins going the right direction, but that doesn't mean anything at the end of the day. Like he told us at the same time and even afterwards, like, look, just because, he had DeMarcus, listening to him didn't mean that he didn't have his foot, up his behind every single day. Mm-hmm. And those are Michael Malone's words, not mine. And I don't think he said behind. So, I mean, those are things that you have to realize that like, it wasn't an easy cut and dry situation. Comparing star level players isn't easy when you start bringing in the extra stuff, all the things on the outside. And what I saw from, Jokic at the finals and building up to that was someone that his teammates, like, they just adore him. And they know that the big reason why they're there is him. And he also understands that a big reason why they won is because his teammates were good and he helped them be good. And I don't think we ever got to that point with DeMarcus where he helped his teammates be good. And, it's okay. It's just, that was the era.
Could anything with DeMarcus have been different on a different team?
I don't think so.
Like if DeMarcus was drafted by the Heat culture, right? If DeMarcus was drafted by the Heat, would things be different?
I don't think so. I mean, I would like to tell you that the Kings didn't play a huge role. The Kings were a huge, huge issue all the way from the beginning. I mean, DeMarcus in his rookie season, they tried to relocate the team. And on top of that, everyone disappeared. The ownership disappeared, upper management disappeared. and it was Paul Westphal standing out in front of basically a firing squad every day, having to deal with relocation questions. And then in the locker room, it was DeMarcus and his teammates, just Bush League, kind of like what we're seeing in Oakland right now, where management just won't step up and own what they're doing and just take the pressure off the people that are there every day who have to answer the questions. So, yeah, certainly there were some things that didn't help, but there's a lot of times where DeMarcus didn't help himself. And like, look, I'm not trying to throw a guy under the bus. I'm just being honest. Like I covered some crazy things in Sacramento. And I'll tell you, the last season that he was there, I thought he was so much better. He had matured. He'd grown up. When he got traded, he had been in a bar fight in New York City and got suspended. He had yelled profanity at a fan and got a huge fine and I think a suspension. He had 3 run-ins with media members, big-time run-ins with media members, including a crazy near altercation in the locker room. And on top of that, he had 15 technicals, and he got traded 55 games into the season. And we all thought he had the best season of his career as far as like staying out of trouble. There's not a player, the entire Kings roster right now combined doesn't have that in their entire career.
But I think the argument is like the chicken or the egg thing. Like how much of that was a result of Sacramento? Like what year was that for DeMarcus here? Like 6?
Yeah, it was year 7. It was
year 7. So like it could even if DeMarcus enters the league or a franchise with certain, characteristic that you want to correct, maybe those things with a more stable organization are corrected in year 2, year 1, year 3, something like that before that next rookie extension comes in. Whereas here, he had to know, regardless of the news that you broke about the $200 million contract extension that was coming, that wound up not. He had to know this is, if I'm here in Sacramento, this is Sacramento. This is what I'm stuck with. This is what the organization is. Like you're just trying to keep your head above water at that point. If you're a basketball player, and so maybe you are looking at maybe there's just not a lot of corrective stuff from an organization looking to develop a young man. As we were talking about a basketball player trying to develop a young man, that the Sacramento Kings just didn't have that.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be those questions, right? I mean, he went through, he was on his 3rd general manager when he was traded, Pete D'Alessandro and of course Jeff Petrie, Paul Westphal, Keith Smart, Michael Malone, Ty Corbin, George Karl, and then he was on to, like when he got traded, what was it? Dave Yeager, right? Yeah. So, I mean, I don't even know how many coaches I just said, but that's how many. But again, like, I think that there's always going to be that situation where you have to figure out. I mean, the Kings had other pieces in place. They had people to support him all the time. It's not like he was just on his own. He brought his own person with him from Kentucky who is there to help. And like, sometimes there isn't a way to fix things. And like, look, he's 31, 32 years old, and he's playing in Puerto Rico. It's not like he didn't have an NBA offer last season. And as of right now, I don't know that he'll have an NBA offer again. So it's not just Sacramento. There were situations in almost every stop. I mean, the Denver Nuggets and Michael Malone did not ask him back last season after he was there the year before to finish up the season. The day he got waived by the Milwaukee Bucks 2 seasons ago, I think he put up like 20 and 15 with like 4 blocks. Like, these are things that it goes beyond the numbers, and it always will. And so, again, I would like to tell you that it would be different, but like, look, we're talking about a human being. We're not talking about just like opportunities. He's had other opportunities since then.
Well, I don't think discussing anything past Warriors is fair, because after the ACL tear, I think all kind of bets are off at that point. And I think it was Milwaukee that went out of their way to say DeMarcus was great for us.
Yeah.
We had to make this move. Here's why we had to make it. But please know, DeMarcus was wonderful for us. We hope he blah, 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 blah. But again, at that point, even at that stage, and regardless of what Milwaukee's saying, it's just roster management at that point because of that post ACL. He recovered from the Achilles, but post ACL he just wasn't the same anymore.
Yeah, I think it's a little unfair to say nothing would have changed if he was in a better situation. Like, I think there still would have been elements of DeMarcus Cousins that are just him, and he had to learn by going through certain things. But the situation, I think, played a role in it as well. I mean, I would guess that DeMarcus, I've never talked to him, but when you talk about he wasn't all alone.
Maybe he'll go to dinner with us and Draymond.
Oh boy! Oh man!
When that alleged dinner is going to happen,
dinner.
Draymond, DeMarcus, D'Lo, and Casey.
But where he wasn't necessarily alone, like he had a support group. He probably did feel like it was alone on him to turn this franchise around because he was the only one that was ever still here all the time, and they were a laughing stock. And he was looked at as a franchise and all this other stuff. And sometimes, I don't know if this is the case with DeMarcus, but sometimes that's a lot on a person. I don't know if Jokic ever felt like he was alone in Denver. Like, I'm alone here. I have to turn this around by myself. He's had Murray. He's had Mike Malone. He's had stable front office. Like, I think that matters. Like, when somebody's looking at a situation where they're like, bro, I'm doing this all by myself. And we talked about the Kings for 15 years, how it was impossible to win here. And we're asking this guy to do the impossible by himself. I think that was probably a lot for him. It wouldn't be surprising if that contributed to some of the mood swings or some of the bad decisions that he made, that frustration, that stress, that pressure that he might have felt.
I get that. And I'll also say that, like the Kings, when they drafted DeMarcus Cousins, they were just 4 years into this deal, right? Into the 16-year losing streak. So, 2006 is their last playoff appearance. He's drafted in 2010. And that's 6.5 years. How many top tier picks did they have? One after another after another. And
they didn't get them right. They never got them right.
They didn't get them right. They didn't get them right, but I'm also
the right player. It don't matter.
I'll tell you, they put most of those kids in a situation where no one was going to succeed, and so I'll tell you, the Kings as an entity is one thing. The Kings as an entity with DeMarcus Cousins was a different thing, and so like finding success in that situation, it wasn't gonna it would have taken a rare breed. The one guy that I think may have had an opportunity to break through, and it's the biggest mistake they made, was the 2012. No, it's the 2012 draft when the night before they're drafting Damian Lillard, and then they end up going with Thomas Robinson instead. That was the one guy who I think could have fought through. And again, Isaiah Thomas, Rudy Gay. It's not like he didn't play with anybody. He actually did have players. Some of these we can look back and go, okay, that team wasn't really that good. But there are other years where you're like, okay, how bad was that team? I don't think we'll know. This situation was bad, and there was no way to make this situation better. And he wasn't going to be part of the situation. Part of the reason why the situation got better just wasn't going to happen.
They got rid of Isaiah.
There's a lot that though. If you drafted a player who that high who couldn't succeed because DeMarcus was here, you drafted the wrong player.
How many of those guys are still in the league?
None. Absolutely none. And maybe some of this conversation could be had about them too. Could they have succeeded if they were elsewhere? The whole point in this long-winded discussion was DeMarcus was really, really good. And Jesse made a great point that if you took that DeMarcus Cousins and put him on a good team in the league today, I even made the argument, you put him on the Sacramento Kings today, he could do a lot of what Domantas Sabonis does. He could rebound at the Sabonis level. He could probably score. He's a more willing scorer or a more eager scorer than Domantas Sabonis is. But I'd argue he passes really well too. And maybe he's not at 8 assists, flirting with 8 assists, 7.5 assists where Domas is at. But is he in the vicinity of 6+? I can absolutely see that. And that was the point in this whole conversation is DeMarcus's career seems to have ended, unfortunately. But, man, he was a really, really elite basketball player.
Yeah, he's a wonderful talent. Like, I absolutely loved watching him play. Like, the things he could do on the court. And I'll say the same thing about Rudy Gay. Like, I made the comparison the other day about Rudy Gay and George Gervin. Like, the things Rudy Gay was in his prime was a beautiful basketball player.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did it equate to wins? Was he ever going to be the reason why you won? I don't know about that, but still, like, that was a great talent. And like, watching those guys on a nightly basis, like, they should have won more games. And injuries play a part, instability plays a part, players played a part. So, like, basketball hell, like, welcome to basketball hell is the line from Rudy Gay. I mean, it was part of the culture that was permeating through everything, not just management, not just ticket sales or the arena or ownership. It was in every single like fiber of the organization through that era.
Well, tell Rudy basketball hell is over.
It's over. Come on back, Rudy. Well, I mean, to watch a game or whatever.
Yeah, you can get a nice seat. Get a nicer seat than Kent Bazemore had. We'll get you down.
Kent Bazemore wasn't for us.
Kent Bazemore,
he's kind of hanging around the other side a little bit.
Kent Bazemore was kind of hanging pretty tough with us.
He was.
Yeah, I think Kent Bazemore was with us.
Okay.
He just in
Kent Bazemore.
row S.
Yeah.
Instead of down there next to Harry Giles.
Yeah, Damian had better seats than Kent Bazemore.
I
was sitting where I always sit.
Where were you at in game 2?
In the same area where I'm at game 1 through 82. What you mean game 2? I was right by the media section. What are you talking about? I was sitting by you and Drake Yu.
What you talking about?
I was sitting by Kenny and Drake Yu and his family for 2 minutes till the lady said, "Hey, my seat, move." And I had to be like Glenn Baby Davis. "Oh, this your seat? Oh, I'm sorry." Went back to my media section.
There was 2 seats too. She was just saying this one is mine. She didn't say leave.
No. Nobody come get me. I just went back to my spot. That's all it was. But the point is, someone tell Rudy Gay basketball hell is over.
It's over, man. It's over.
We played the clip of Mark Spears earlier. Mark Spears again riding for the Sacramento Kings. Funny enough, the guy who saw more Sacramento Kings basketball than anybody else in the national media outside, of course, Mark Jones. Mark, if you're listening, want to make sure we point that out. Absolutely. You are national media. Yep. He's really big. He went in so far as to say on NBA Today last week, Hammer, that he believes the Sacramento Kings may be the deepest team in the NBA. You agree with that?
They're one of. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think so. Do they have the full quality of depth? I think so. We're still gonna have to wait and see what some of these players look like together. Like, we're putting a lot of stock in Chris Duarte, who barely played at all last season and had injuries the whole time, and he's only going into his 3rd year. Putting a lot of stock into a guy like Sasha Vezenkov, who we have no idea what he's going to look like on NBA floor. But overall, yeah, I mean, I like the depth. We've talked about Nerlens Noel. I still don't have the full breakdown on Nerlens Noel's contract. I saw a tweet from somebody that I don't know. I don't know them as a journalist, and I don't know where they got their information. But they said Nerlens' contract is like $300,000 guaranteed for training camp. If he makes opening day roster, he gets like an additional $600,000, and then the rest of it becomes fully guaranteed on January 20th or whatever the date is for fully guaranteeing contracts. I don't have that. like written in stone, and a lot of the people that I trust in the business have yet to get that number as well. But still, that seems like it's probably in line with what I would assume Nerlens Noel would be worth. Is a non-guaranteed, but pretty heavily guaranteed in camp. But overall, like, look, I think that they improve their depth. I think some of the sneaky stuff that's happening, like, I think that by bringing in Sasha Vezenkov, that means that you can move Trey Lyles to the small ball 5 permanently. And I think that improves your team greatly. If they would have used Trey Lyles all season long as a small ball 5 and had a stretch 4 to put alongside him, I think that they would have been a better team. And so I'm intrigued to see how that looks this year. Alex Len, as a guy who may actually get to play, I think that's intriguing. Like, if you need a big center, you have one. And then Duarte will be a little bit of a wild card, but I'm not sure how much he'll play. Well, he'll be lost in the minutes crunch like everybody else is. But him and Kessler Edwards, I like both of them as players who are going to be with you from the beginning, and you have all summer to work with them and all training camp to get them comfortable in a system and then roll them out, as opposed to like Kessler having to jump in, 50 something games into the season into a situation on a winning team and not really being able to find his way. So I think they're not going to start the season with a KZ Okpala in the rotation or in the starting lineup. They're not going to have question marks, which they did last year. And even some of the question marks that we know, the Chimezi Metu or the Terrence Davis, those guys have been replaced with just more solid NBA players, maybe not as high potential, but solid. Although I would say that Sasha Vezenkov's potential is to be better than Chimezi Metu's. But overall, I think that, like, you increase the depth for sure.
Do you think, like, with you talk about guys in their Sasha instead of Metu and Duarte instead of TD, guys like that, do you think we see a more consistent lineup? And what I mean by that is, Metu would go 5-6 games without playing. Alex Len will go 10 games without playing. Terrence Davis 5-6 games. Do you think we see more of that again next year, or is it going to be more, hey, these 10 guys know that they're playing pretty much every single night?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this early in the season, and I remember telling you guys, like, this looks like a team with like an 8.5, 9-man rotation. And this year it could be like a 9.5, 10-man rotation. That still means that someone's going to be left out. So will they have games where Trey Lyles doesn't play, and it's because you're going up against, Jokic, and you're worried about the size at the backup center position, or because Sabonis gets in foul trouble and you need to go deeper to your bench quicker? Like, those things will happen. But I thought consistency wise, there was really only like a half of a roster spot that fluctuated last year. And that half of a roster spot went to Terrence Davis sometimes. It went to Chimezi Metu sometimes. At the end of the season, it went to Alex Len. We saw for a few minutes, it went to Kessler Edwards for a little bit. But like, that's where Mike Brown was comfortable. He knew who his big, powerful 8 guys were, and he stuck with those. And I have a hard time believing that, again, Davion Mitchell and De'Aaron Fox at the point, Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter at the 2, Harrison Barnes, Sasha Vezenkov, Keegan Murray at the 3-4. That I'm up to 7 players. Then we get to Trey Lyles and we get to Domantas Sabonis. That's 9. Like, so maybe there is a half of a player that will get to play sometimes. And a lot of time that will probably be someone like Duarte. But there's no guarantee, like, barring injuries. And again, the one good thing.
I find that funny. Half of a player can get into the rotation. I don't know why I find that funny, because I know exactly what you mean. But
yeah, I mean, like, look, barring injuries, like, having no injuries is a blessing, right? It's also a curse because you didn't have anyone there that was actually getting meaningful playing time that was ready to play. Like, when it was go time, some of these guys looked like they hadn't played in 3 weeks. And it's because they hadn't played in 3 weeks. Your Rashawn Holmes, you know, you want to throw them out there, and that's fine, but it's really, really tough to stay in 100% game shape at the NBA level if you're not getting any minutes at all. And so that's why I've like said this a couple of times this year, but like kudos to Alex Len for staying ready. Because that's a
even
big
Alex Len needed like a warm-up game.
Yeah, that first game.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
like it was like and guys would be out of the rotation for a while, and I think this was common where they'd get that first game back and it'd be like, ugh. But then the second one, they'd be really good.
Mm-hmm.
Like that would happen with Chimezie. It definitely happened with Alex Len. I mean, I remember that game Alex Len came back. It was, I think it was Minnesota.
Yeah, Minnesota.
Here, right?
Yeah, Minnesota.
And it was like, oh, God. That was the chance to clinch a playoff spot. And it was, that was brutal.
Like, what
like
is he doing on the court?
Yeah, it was tough. And then the Portland game came around, and it's like, yo, Alex Len played well.
Not so bad.
And I think Mark, I have a recollection of Mark talking about this on the broadcast. He got centered, and he got like a pep talk, and was told, yo, you're going to get a chance to play. And we always felt like we could see the difference between a guy getting thrown in, a guy being told they'll get a chance to play. Like, I remember a game Rashawn got thrown in, and it was a disaster. And when he went to the bench, like 2 minutes later, his head was looking straight at the ground because he knew he wasn't going to get back in.
Yeah, and the same thing, like we talk about, like the opportunity that Neemias Queta got just wasn't fair. Like the one he comes up, Mike Brown says he's going to get an opportunity, rolls him out there against Joel Embiid, who is the MVP, and he just gets destroyed. I mean, foul. Okay, go sit on the bench. You're done. Yep. And you're not part of the rotation anymore. That was it. That was your opportunity.
Use of your fouls, Queta.
It's like
impressive use of your fouls.
Yeah, and I think it's funny you say that, but one of the biggest things that Mike Brown teaches and really pushes forward with the guys is playing without fouling. And if you're going to come in and play 3 or 4 minutes, you better not get me in team foul trouble for the rest of the quarter. And that's what, you had these moments where guys just couldn't stop from fouling. Guys like, again, KZ Okpala or Kessler Edwards did the same thing. Like, boom, boom, boom. Like, hey, like, look, you can go out there and just not, missing a shot is one thing, but going out there and picking up 3 fouls, and all of a sudden we only have 2 more team fouls, and we're in the bonus, in the penalty, with 8 minutes left in a quarter, that's not going to work. And so, like, there is a lot on these guys that you don't think of, the little things where we're used to, like, hey, go give me 6 good fouls. That's not the Mike Brown system. The Mike Brown system is no. You go out there and you play defense without fouling, because those 3 fouls that you're picking up have repercussions later.
All right, we'll come back. We'll talk more with our 1320 Kings insider, James Ham, when D'Lo and KC, brought to you by Sky River Casino, resumes here on Sacramento Sports Leader, ESPN 1320. Carly Russell admits she was not kidnapped. Man. Carly.
Jeez.
Not great.
Carly. There was no kidnapping on July.
So does that also mean there was no toddler on the side of the freeway?
I hope not.
Well, here's the statement from her lawyer. There was no kidnapping on July 13th. My client did not see a baby and did not leave the Hoover area. Oof. She did not have an accomplice. She was not in a hotel or was with anyone while she was missing. Man. My client did not have help in this incident. That is a single act done by herself. This is a weird statement. My client was not with anyone or any hotel with anyone from the time she was missing. My client apologizes for her actions to this community, the volunteers who were searching for her, to the Hoover Police Department and other agencies, as well to her friends and family.
Eesh.
Brother, the parents went on Good Morning America.
That's harsh.
I mean,
yeah,
maybe
that's
they
not
didn't
good.
know who she was at either. They thought she was kidnapped.
The part that killed me was the snacks. They had evidence she bought the snacks, but when they went to the car, there were no snacks.
Oh, so she took the snacks with her?
She took the snacks with her. She needed snacks for her little getaway.
Got to eat to live.
Yeah, it's like it's a little bit like the blonde-haired lady here in our area that allegedly was kidnapped and held against her will for a while and then wasn't. Yeah.
She fine too. What's wrong
Of
with
course.
Carly? What's she doing this? She's cute.
Her dude left her.
Well, I thought her boyfriend was out here tweeting about mental health or something. Wasn't he
thought
out
they
here
said-
tweeting about talking about you guys should leave her alone? Like you don't know what she's
Right
going
there.
through?
What they said when he found out, gotta
Kenny
eat to
Kenny,
live.
Kenny, the type of person who fake a kidnapping and bring the snacks with him too.
Is,
Kenny's going nowhere without his bag of
justice.
snacks.
Gotta eat to live.
Kenny stopped at the gas station and bought like 2 boxes of Hershey's cookies and cream
Sounds
and a
delicious.
case of strawberry soda and just hit the road.
That sounds delicious to be honest.
Kenny,
I'm not sure what went on. A Louis Vuitton bag was found in the driver's side door, but damn, the bag of snacks that he got at the 7-Eleven is gone.
Kenny out there getting the diabetes all by himself.
Diabetes.
Man, speaking of, I had some bomb food. Yeah, just say food over the weekend.
All right.
Bomb.
Oh, that's awesome. It's interesting, the DeMarcus Cousins situation. Like I should write a book on that. I really should.
You should write a book,
just, like,
period.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah, I've thought about it so many times. But certainly the DeMarcus Cousins situation, like there are just certain people, like you guys have them in your life that the situation matters, but you know that deep down it doesn't, because it doesn't matter their situation. They end up getting in something, and it just like that's kind of where I always was with him, and I spent a lot of time with him. Like,
Mhm.
I'm kind of bored with what's at the vending machine now. They've got to do better.
All right, we're coming back, Hammer. Michael Jordan's 13-year run as owner of the Charlotte Hornets is over. I feel like this is going to be the latest thing scrubbed from Michael Jordan's like history. His time as an owner, his time as a GM, and his time with the Washington Wizards just erased. Michael Jordan's career ended when he hit that shot against the Jazz in 1988. Nothing happened from there until the Last Dance.
Well, they're not even related. Why would they? Why would
Y'all are so selective with your GOAT, man.
Why would they happen? Excuse me, you saying LeBron's your GOAT?
No, I'm just pointing out that I'm just
you
pointing
saying
out that
your.
Jordan.
You didn't say or. You said your.
I'm just saying Jordan is y'all GOAT, and y'all pretend like
What
he
that
didn't
got
play
to do with anything?
because you guys pretend like he didn't play for the Wizards.
Yeah, he
You
played for the Wizards.
pretend like he didn't fumble his way through a general manager position, and was arguably one of the worst owners in the NBA.
What that got to do with anything? Does that make him? Does
I'm
that
just
make
saying,
him
y'all
not the
erase
best
it
basketball player of all
No,
time?
but y'all act like Jordan ain't
So
never.
what that got to do with
Y'all
anything?
y'all act like Jordan ain't never done nothing wrong.
Now, as when you talk about the GOAT,
So far, the only thing he's good at is playing basketball.
well,
Facts.
And
That's
shoes.
all he needs
He's
to be
very
good at.
He's very good at shoes.
That's all he needs to be good at. Ain't got nothing to do with nothing. All that other stuff ain't got nothing to do with nothing.
I'm just pointing out, y'all act like it all ended in '98.
That's when his career. Well, he played 2 more years.
Didn't he played in Washington?
Yeah, he played 2 more years. That was 20 a night when he was like what, almost 40. All right.
he also drafted like a near 7-footer with smaller hands than me, Kwame Brown.
He absolutely did that.
He did.
Has nothing to do with whether or not he's the best basketball player of all time.
Saying, y'all.
I'm with Kenny.
We don't erase anything. We acknowledge it.
Y'all
What that
don't-
got to do with being the best player? We acknowledge it. We can
For
write a
those
book
who
on-
think
James gonna write a book on his failures with the Wizards in the front office.
Well,
what that got to do with anything?
James is
in being
busy
the
then.
best?
He's got a lot of books coming up.
What that
yeah,
got to do with him being the best player of all time?
I totally agree because we could keep talking about Bill Russell as the greatest winner of all time, and then I'll show you news clippings of his year in Sacramento. Like, like,
He's the greatest winner of all time as long as he was in Boston.
as long as he was sitting 20 rows up in the stands reading a newspaper while his team was practicing on the court. Yeah.
Larry Bird did really good as a
Yeah.
coach.
Yeah, Larry Bird was
And
very
front
good.
office
With
guy,
Indiana.
right?
Yeah.
He was a front office guy in
Yep.
Indiana too.
Yep.
Did really well.
Loved Domas, if I'm not mistaken, didn't he?
Love Domas was told those guys don't do it. They did it anyways.
Yeah, Larry was one of the few who was, in some people's mind, one of the greatest, maybe not Kenny's, one of the greatest players of
He's
all
top
time.
10 of all time on my book. Thank you very much. Number 10, but he's top 10.
Well, still 10. One of the greatest players of all time who actually worked as a coach.
Yeah, he did a good job.
I know did Isaiah coach?
Isaiah did coach Indiana. He did.
And
He did pretty good. With
He was
Indiana.
all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
He
mean,
didn't do as good with New York.
he did a lot of bad things.
Oh no,
He did
Isaiah.
a lot of really bad
He
things.
was really bad in Toronto too.
Yeah, he coached the
As-
Raptors.
He coached Doug. That's as anyone
he
who
the
watched
coach or
that
just the
goddamn
front-
Summer League broadcast would tell you. Yeah, I had Doug Christie there. I love Doug Christie.
I think he was just a front office guy in Toronto. I don't think he coached him,
I don't know what
but
it
he was terrible either way. And then he had the CBA. That was horrible.
Oh, well,
It's terrible.
we're leaving
He
some
was
things out. I
Well,
say.
not good in a few stops.
Yeah, we're leaving a lot of Isaiah's story out here.
Hey, in Call Me Magic, they did not talk about his coaching stint.
Okay, so
Magic's coaching stint? They
Yeah.
didn't.
yeah.
Remember it. That
Okay,
was-
so Isaiah was 187 and 223 as a head coach.
it's not that
um,
bad.
Most of those.
Oh.
Well, it's not good.
And hey,
Oh.
he didn't coach the Raptors. He was a front
He was a front
office with the Raptors. He coached the Knicks.
So the Pacers and the Knicks, and that was it.
Mhm.
Yeah. Forgot about that.
Yeah. Yeah, he was the initial. I can't. Was he GM? I don't think he was. He definitely wasn't part owner. That's Michael Jordan, but he was the inaugural. Like he brought them, helped bring them into the league, the Raptors. Speaking of Call Me Magic, and shout out to him for
They covered his comeback, right? Did they cover
Yeah.
that?
yeah.
They didn't cover his coaching. That's
That's what Michael Jordan said. I told you don't. I told you don't come back yet. I told you them dogs. But he kudos to Magic. They covered the Magic Hour.
Oh yeah.
And he's up there and he goes, "Oh, all these twins in the front row. Look at these sets of twins. All for me."
Oh,
And that was it.
Irvin. Yeah, the Magic Hour was tough.
People were just looking at him.
The Magic Hour was tougher than Jordan's stint as a general manager. That's definitely. Hey,
was
LeBron
brutal.
ain't never had the Magic Hour.
LeBron's going to
The
own
day
the team.
young.
and see what happens there.
That's true.
And
He
the
gonna
day
own
is
that
young.
He going.
We
Gonna
haven't
own
got
that
to
one.
that part of the LeBron James career. That could still happen.
LeBron might be the first person to hire a woman as the coach.
Mm.
When it's the Las Vegas LeBrons, he might be the one who hires a woman as the head coach.
I could see it for sure.
That's definitely his next move, right? Like he's an owner.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, they're gonna hate that. They're gonna hate that when that man becomes an owner.
Right after he
Then this is the trajectory now. Rich hands off his clients and becomes the general manager.
he's the new Worldwide West.
He's the worldwide Rob Pelinka.
Yeah.
There's other agents who we were just talking about one not that long ago. Other agents that have become
Wasn't
general
Leon
managers.
Rosa agent?
Leon Rose definitely was an agent.
And then
but that's
Adele will
not
have
on-
like she'll do the permanent thing in Vegas.
Well, yeah, maybe. Well, if that's the case, maybe you can get a ticket. Right now, you can't get a damn ticket to that thing.
We forgot one step in LeBron's whole tenure. He's gonna spend a year in Saudi, getting the Saudi bag, $1.5 billion.
So for the yet to be named league, that's fine.
That Mbappe money. Oh,
matter of fact, LeBron's gonna play soccer for $1.5 billion.
I do it. Do it, LeBron.
There you
Do
go.
it. You
don't play basketball.
You don't need your ACLs anymore. You don't need your Achilles anymore. If something happens, it's fine. Go get that money. Go get that.
The latest there was the Mbappe, like the rumor of like $700 million salary and then a $400 million transfer fee for Mbappe today. And
them
so they're saying 1.1 billion.
Wild.
Man.
The whole system is wild.
I want to follow soccer so bad. It's just so confusing.
It really is.
There's a $300 million transfer fee. Like in the NBA, you just trade somebody, but in soccer, it
really
costs you $300 million.
It don't make no sense. Soccer kind of doesn't make any sense.
Well, plus the teams can reach out to a player and start working on personal contract stuff. Like, hey, would you like to play for us? And they're like, okay.
Well, maybe that's why there's a fee.
They call it a weekly fee. That's their weekly fee that they get, that they negotiate for themselves. And then on top of that, you have all this other stuff, like the whole purchasing. So a player and a team. So someone, if this were the NBA, someone could call up De'Aaron Fox and say, hey, look, we want you on our team. He's like, okay, well, I'm under contract for 3 more years. And you go, okay, but we'll give you 7 years. And we'll give you like a weekly contract of like $400,000 a week. And he's like, oh, well, that sounds good. Well, now you got to go see how much it's going to cost you for the Kings to sell. But then the player can go to the team that he's with and say, look, I want out. I want to go play for that team. And they're like, okay, well, we're not going to do it for anything less than like 300 million. Okay. Well, then the two teams then negotiate. So it's really, really strange. Like all of it is weird.
One of the differences is it seems like is you get money instead of players in return.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Almost exclusively. Yeah.
We don't need to match salaries, buddy. Give me $300 million.
I don't want your second round pick. Give me the money.
Yeah.
What am I going to do with your second round pick? Yeah,
it's wild.
Soccer was on my radar this weekend. Maybe for the first time ever.
I think I'm gonna try and get in the EPL again.
With the
I'm try.
I told you I've tried to have that. Someone tried to explain it to me, and I didn't get it.
Well,
I didn't get it.
Isn't it a situation too with like the EPL where like there ain't no playoffs or nothing? It's just whoever has the most points at the end of the season.
Yes and no. So they also have in-season tournaments, and you can win those as well. So like in the EPL, there's 2 in-season tournaments. And on top of that, there's also like champion cup or the Euro Cup. So you have games that you're playing for one standing. The top 4 teams in the EPL get to go to Champions League. And then their relegation thing is wild. I love the relegation thing. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
Like if you're bad and you can't put a good product on the field, then GTFO. That's what they do. They just like, see ya. You're going down a level. You're going down a level. So, like the Kings.
I think you missed a letter. Like GTFO. H. That's all right. We got you. James Ham don't need no stinking H. All right. Well, I don't know, but whoever's calling for De'Aaron Fox can chill.
Yeah, we ain't having all that.
No,
we ain't having all that.
De'Aaron Fox. That was just an example. I should have used some other player.
Yeah,
someone is calling for Colby Jones. I'm ready to fight.
Yeah, you call it.
Yeah.
Use Marvin back.
Hey, I'll cost you
No, I'm saying.
Okay. All right. Yeah, all right.
I'm saying.
Shout out Marvin Bagley. Good luck in Detroit. Good luck in Detroit. You think De'Aaron? Kendrick Perkins had a top 5 NBA candidates, MVP candidates list, and it was Giannis, Jokic. Oh, Anthony Davis,
Jason
Tatum,
yeah,
and De'Aaron.
Well, I try to avoid anything that Perkins says. That's just like it's on my list of priorities to avoid.
Understanding.
Don't do that.
Extremely entertaining.
Don't do that to Big Perk, guys. Don't do that to Big Perk.
Yeah, like, okay, is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. Like, I'm not putting a cap on that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that we should be doing that.
What does that look like to you, though? Like, if he's top 5 MVP, like what? Give me what the season and his numbers might look like to you. What would he have to do to get to that?
28-7, shoot 38% from 3. And more importantly, his team would be in first place the entire year.
Place?
Like,
maybe not even top 3
wins. 57 wins. No. No.
If he gets in the 1 seed, he's the MVP.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there ain't no in the discussion. I think you can get in the discussion.
Well, but
with top 5.
Jamal Murray got hurt, and that Phoenix thing didn't go well, and Anthony Davis got hurt. Well, Kawhi didn't play. There'd be 15 excuses as to why Sacramento was number 1.
They look down there and they'd say, "Oh, Luka got Dallas to the 9th seed. He's the MVP."
Even though Kyrie averaged 30 and 10 this year, let's give it to Luka.
And we're already seeing like the guesstimations on their win totals. Yeah. 43.5. Like, what are we doing here? You get like,
give me all of that.
Vegas missed by, what was it, 14 games last season?
Yep.
And here they are again running it out there. Oh, this team's going to take a big step back. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they do.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I want to find where I can put a couple dollars down on that.
Well, California didn't allow it. So
I know I'm going to have to drive somewhere. It's supposed to be in Vegas.
Got to have one of those accounts.
I would have done it then. Although they didn't have it last. I was trying to do it last year and it wasn't up yet in the Vegas books.
Oh, that cost us
money. I would have been rich.
TK got in on that, and then the Kings winning the division.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Trista won so much money, she wouldn't even tell us how much. That's when you know it's a lot. When they won't, when the gambling lady won't tell you how much money she won, that's how confident she was in Sacramento, and she made out on that one.
Yeah. Sorry if I've got bad Wi-Fi today. I'm trying to work it out, but
no, you're fine. You're still here.
Again,
still standing.
We all find it funny. You're the only one who hates it.
Still standing, still strong. Hey, we did get into a conversation earlier about Domantas Sabonis and why we were trying to figure out why it is he's kind of disrespected around the league. He's kind of, it's like, as opposed to, hey, they've got all NBA center Domantas Sabonis. It's, well, they got Domantas Sabonis, but we
overpaid for him.
Yeah, you know what I mean? There's always kind of a negative tone, negative connotation to a lot of these people when they're talking about him. Do you have an idea of why that may be? Is it literally just the playoff series?
I don't know. Because this is the same thing we saw when they traded Tyrese Halliburton. Like, how could you do that? It's like, okay, wait a sec. So if we really, like, the MVP balloting, I think he finished either 6 or 7.
7, yeah.
And in MVP balloting, then we get to all league. So you get a second bite at the apple. He finished, like, by the numbers, like number 11 in all league balloting. Like, by every metric that the media votes on as well, he's a top 11, top 12 player in the league. You say that publicly and be like, oh, come on now. I saw some rating where they had him at 56. I'm like, Like, what kind of, if you're, that's who,
Wow.
if that's the content you're creating, you should not be in this business. You're bad at your job. So, like, we're talking about, without any questions, a top 20 player. No questions. I mean, a top 20 player in the league. So I don't get it. I don't understand it. Like, there are only like maybe 2 centers you're going to take. Well, there are 2 centers you take over him. After that, man, I'm riding with Sabonis. Like, he's a good ball player and wants to be here, and he plays every night with a broken thumb, and he goes out there and he is straight up a gladiator. He gets beat up like the whole game, and like, put better pieces around him and he'll get you further. Just keep doing it. Keep putting better pieces around him and you'll go further. He's not the problem.
I wonder how much of it was he was on prior to the playoff series. He was on not just one team no one was watching, but 2. Which is weird. So I guess the weird part about that is, how did everybody know Tyrese was the god? It was the most egregious trade in the history of the NBA. But Tyrese was in Sacramento. How did y'all know he was God if y'all weren't watching Sacramento? Because you didn't watch him. You didn't watch Indiana.
No.
You didn't watch Sacramento with Domantas Sabonis, but you knew Tyrese was God.
But they all knew.
I don't. It's weird. Like, it's weird, dude. I don't get it.
Great point.
We live in an instant reaction world. They want, as soon as the trade is done, they want instant reaction with grades. When your grades end up being horribly wrong, just the worst, I feel like so many people spend the next year or 2 trying to make up for that, trying to point out every single flaw so they don't look quite as wrong as they did like the day after. And
that's like
so,
when Schefter tried to spend a year still trying to tell people that the 49ers were going to take Mac Jones.
Oh my gosh.
He ran with that for a year after the draft. Oh no, they were going to take Mac Jones. Something changed. I don't know who got in whose ear, but it's the same thing. Like, these guys don't want to admit they're wrong. You're spot on with that, Hammer.
Well, and I will tell you this, without any question at all, the night before the 2012 draft, if that's what year it is, the Kings were taking Damian Lillard. That was my source. That is not revisionist history. That is not 2 years later. That was the deal the night before. And the next morning, the next day, they didn't take him. And because they didn't have any money to go sign Jason Thompson, and they had no power forward. And so they had to do something. But that is exactly like, so some of these things are revisionist and other things, they're just not. That's the way it was going. And for me, like, I just think so many people got proven wrong. So many people look like idiots when they're telling you to take the under on 33.5 or 34.5 on the Kings. Like, people are telling people, oh no, this team's going to be god awful. Like, take the under. Okay. Fine.
I wonder. See, now I'm just, because when you mentioned the playoff series earlier, I was like, man, you might be right. People really get hung up on the last thing they saw. They hated him when the deal was done.
That's true. They've never liked him.
Like, you literally, from the time the deal was done for Tyrese to the playoff series, you didn't see a single thing in between. Nothing. And then, Kevon, I don't even think you saw game 1.
No,
where he had 16 rebounds in game 1. It was all that he grabbed Draymond's foot and put him in the Ken Shamrock ankle lock, and then they just outplayed him the rest of the series. Good Lord.
But
most disrespected player in the league. I stand on that.
And for the first time ever, it's a win-win. And I always say that because if the Kings were in the Pacers situation, it would not be looked at as a win-win. The trade.
If they had missed the playoffs.
Yeah.
I bet you if we go back, there are so many sports writers that said that the Kings were the biggest idiots in the world for trading Mitch Richmond for Chris Webber. And it's because they all hated Chris Webber, and no matter what, they were not going to let go. They did not want to give the Kings their props the whole time because they didn't like Webber and they did not want to be proven wrong again and again and again. And he did. Proved him wrong.
He did.